Hey guys, so this week's property news, I'm coming to you from Leeds city centre. Just amazing things happening here, and this is just the river, or the canals actually, but basically this week, yeah, amazing things. I was actually expecting house prices to come down, and the reports from August to come out and say house prices are down, but what's actually come out of that is that they're not coming down, they've actually gone up year on year 3.7%, which is great news. You know, it means that things aren't as devastating as possible, and actually things are looking pretty good. And when I say pretty good, that's balanced against the fact that, yeah, Brexit and all those sort of things. But I think the important thing here really is the reason that the house prices have increased is because of the supply and demand. You know, people are not having to sell up their properties, and because they're not having to sell their properties, there's not the properties coming on the market, therefore there's less choice for those that want to buy. And so, you know, I mean, we're noticing it too with a lot of developers still aren't giving what I consider the prices that I want. So there's some of the stuff that I go, you know what, I'd like that, but they're just not being flexible enough. So we just haven't been doing it. But, you know, I think that's a real key, because it's all great to say, you know, things are really bad and Brexit's really bad. But the reality is actually, you know, when you've got prices going up, and look, even if they're not going up tremendously, they're certainly not dropping down. And I think, you know, when you look at it, on balance, I think the media's got a lot to answer for, and I say this too often, really, but I think you know, if we had a situation where, you know, there was some real reporting and some real seriousness. I mean, it's interesting. These are Halifax figures. We'll probably find that, you know, the nationwide figures will come out, the land registry figures will come out, and they may paint a slightly different picture. You know, so it's not necessarily, you know, all good news, and it's not necessarily, well, it's good news in that things aren't dropping away. And I don't think, and you know, here's a prediction. Based on all my evidence, based on everything that I'm seeing, and based on everything I'm reading and people I'm speaking to, you know, and these are guys in the game, and these are people that I've known for many years who just aren't swayed by the emotions and by the headlines. You know, they're actually guys in the market and investing millions of pounds, whether that be on behalf of themselves or on behalf of companies. And I think the key really is that, you know, they're actually not that worried. You know, they're not gonna, you know, they're not seeing things come down. And I have to agree. You know, I had this uneasy feeling when you read the headlines and you talk about Brexit, you know, no deal Brexit being so bad. I really think they're more political statements than they are actual real good economic statements. Because at every turn, you know, things have been shown to actually be pretty damn good, rather than, you know, pretty damn bad. You know, it's an amazing thing, really. You know, well, it's not amazing. It's actually obvious. You know, and I think that's what we've got to take into this. Hey guys, so for the next story, I'm up in Leeds today, but I'm not going to talk about that because if you have a look outside, it's terrible weather. But I'm going to be talking about Australia because. So Australia's had a boom time for near on 20 years. In fact, I think the last price drops were way back in 2012, but even before that, there hasn't been a recession. So they've had things actually really, really pretty good. And the interesting thing is that, you know, they're talking about the mortgage restrictions now, and, you know, the mortgage restrictions are kind of thing that have affected that. But the reality is, if you transpose what's happened to Australia and you look at the UK and you look at the mortgage restrictions, the tax changes, you look at Brexit and the effect of that, you know, and you look at all these things that are really constraining the market, actually, the market's still performing bloody well. And I have to say, you know, these people that say, oh, you know, London property's gone, UK property, or don't invest in there anymore. I think they're freaking idiots. And to be fair, I think in 3 years' time, when Brexit's sort of out and sorted, and we've sorted it, and whether we do it or don't, or whether it's a dog's breakfast or whatever, it doesn't matter. Once we're through that, I think people will start to see, oh, SHIT, I should have actually stayed in property, and I should have actually doubled down and probably, you know, really, I mean, I'm not saying don't restructure your portfolio. I think you have to restructure it for more cash flow, and I think that's one of the keys here. But I think, you know, people are walking around as if to say, you know, property's ended, and it hasn't. And I can tell you, and that's one of the guarantees that I can give you, is that property's not ended. Property's still massive, you know. I mean, you know, there's so much opportunity. But the thing is, with all these restrictions, you know, imagine if we didn't have those restrictions. Wow, that would be quite scary, how much the price would have grown. So, you know, the government really, what they've done is they're pulling this money out in taxes and all sorts of things, you know, and really that's what's been keeping it down. So yeah. So next article is just on Brexit. So Brexit. The interesting thing is, we've seen the first sign of a change or a back down in the EU, which is quite interesting. Barnier basically, when the EU first set out their position, it was like, right, let's negotiate the bill. Once we negotiate the bill and we agree that and you sign off on that, then we'll talk about future prospects and that. And they were, that was adamant. It was one of their no. And we folded in and we agreed to that. But it now appears that they've actually been open to the fact that, no, you know what, we will attach that to that so it becomes one, which is quite good. So I think a bit of realism is starting to come into the negotiations. But by the same token, Barnier had a nice little swipe at Rab, basically just because he was supposed to give him figures about Ireland, because they want to know from Ireland into Northern Ireland or Belfast, basically how much goods was transferring, and they didn't have the data. And my suggestion would be that maybe that data wasn't perfect, or they're playing that negotiation game. But I think to be fair, for me, no deal or deal doesn't really matter. Get yourself in a position that you're okay with it, whichever way. And then just watch out for the opportunities, because there's going to be huge opportunities. Wherever there's crisis, opportunity, and that's what you've got to look for now, and that's what you're really going to be watching out for. I think people are saying, oh, I'm out of the market, I'm jumping out, I'm going to wait and see what it all wash over. You're going to be sitting around on your hands for 3 years, and you know what's going to happen? In 3 years' time, there'll be another thing, and there'll be another thing, and another thing, and you know what? A decade will be gone, and you'll be sitting there, nothing happened. Two final things. I said Jeremy Corbyn. I haven't done anything with Jeremy Corbyn, but what I've done, I've got 2 interviews this week and next weekend with people who actually are right on top. They're actually behind Jeremy Corbyn. I thought it'd be quite interesting to sit down and actually pick their brains. And so they haven't agreed to an interview, as in on video, but they're more than happy for me to chat to them, and so I get a really good that side of the argument. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll definitely be doing that in the next few weeks, unless he gets kicked out of his leadership, because some of the moderate, the centre sort of lefts, Labor things are now really starting to kick back. One final thing, we talked about Boris Johnson, possibly early for PM. Well, let's see what happens now. It appears that he's been caught with a mistress, or potentially, allegedly, who knows if it's true. But it also that he's getting divorced from his wife. But it may well be that he was with his wife, they've divorced or they've separated, and now he's got a new thing. So it's okay. He'll probably get away with that. We'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, that's it for this week from Leeds, and I'll see you next week.